What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. Talk Nelson Radio. The Mako Rugby Roundup.
Welcome to another episode of the Mako Rugby Roundup. I'm your host, Chris Butler, and as always, joined by my co-hosts, Les Edwards and Sean Davis. Good to have you here, lads.
Cheers, mate.
A little bit later on, we're going to be joined by Shane Drummond. So that's going to be very interesting to get all the background. Big history in Tasman Rugby Union.
Amazing contribution to rugby and sport in general for a long time. So great to have Shane on the show.
This week, the lineup is NPC and the Rugby World Cup. And of course, we're going to have a chat to Shane about his time in rugby, the story so far, and of course, a successful businessman as well. And his kids have done pretty well in sport as well. Our venue sponsor is O'Shettigan's on Bridge Street. And if you're in search of the perfect spot to catch all the action, O'Shettigan's is the place to be on Bridge Street. So it's time for the Shed Chat. And how's the week been, mate? How's last weekend? Was that a big weekend?
Cheers, mate. Yeah, it was very big weekend. Starting off with the All Blacks early. It was Saturday morning, wasn't it? Sorry, I lose track of weeks. Yeah, early Saturday morning. Really big turnout for that. Full house and a great result, of course.
Yeah.
Sunday morning was unfortunately, fortunately, whichever side of the fence you're on, a lot of the loyal local French supporters had come in and jumped across to the English ship.
Oh, had they?
and they went down by the same margin again. And
oh no!
Oh, I just felt like there were a few of them were here both weeks and were fairly upset by the end of both games.
I've never heard the French jumping on.
I
shouldn't
say all of them, but there was a group of them that were just hoping for a Northern Hemisphere representation.
I suppose, yes, because that's been the thing. The big write-up was the fact that Northern Hemisphere rugby is going to dominate the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah,
and three of the teams in the semis were from the Southern Hemisphere. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, I did say to them on the way out the door that Sunday morning, I'll see you next week to be a New Zealand supporter. I'm not sure if we really want their support at this point in time or not.
No, it's fun to lose.
Tend to lose by a point quite often. But no, it's been really great turnouts, and I expect this weekend to be no different. Saturday morning, I'm not sure if we'll get a lot in for England, Argentina, but I'll be up fresh and ready to go.
Oh, right.
And of course, the big show Sunday morning.
Yeah, that's going to be massive, isn't it? Huge. We'll talk about that shortly, but first, let's talk Bunnings Warehouse NPC and the final. And you're right, Les. Only just 3 points in it. Taranaki do it over Hawke's Bay 22-19.
Yeah, what a spectacle. That sunny afternoon in New Plymouth, big crowd, both ends packed. The one stand chockers, they sold it out, which is just fantastic, as they did in 2014 against us. A spectacle for the ages, I thought. Great game of rugby.
I was painting. That seems to be my life at the moment, and listening to the updates on the radio, and and it was Taranaki, good start, and then next thing Hawke's Bay comes back, and so what a match. So did you get a chance to view it, and good spectacle, Les?
Yeah, I did. 22-19 in the end of Taranaki, so that's great, hometown advantage. Bit sorry for Hawke's Bay. Fun fact, there are only 3 teams that haven't won the NPC, and Hawke's Bay, surprisingly, is one of them.
Wow.
The others being Manawatu and Southland. So this was, Hawke's Bay would have been hoping for the NPC Ranfurly Shield double.
Yeah.
Didn't quite come off for them, but they can be very proud of the performance they put in. And, a very good game of rugby. So congratulations to Taranaki, 2023 National Provincial Championship premiers.
Yeah, exactly.
Got the job done. I have to give it to you guys. You guys did tell me they'd get there. I thought Hawke's Bay. Yeah, well, they did. They showed a lot of fight, and even to chase down that early lead Taranaki got to get back into that game with that, like you say, that full stands there in Taranaki. And I did see a stat come up on the screen that Hawke's Bay haven't beaten Taranaki at home in I don't know how many games,
Oh,
like
is that right?
17 games or something
Oh,
ridiculous.
geez, you missed that one in your prediction.
There you go. These fine details.
Yeah. If only you'd know.
Exactly. But yeah, credit to Taranaki, massive season and yeah, awesome final considering no super franchise team in the final and yeah, real spectacle.
Rugby World Cup, and what a huge weekend. Semi-finals. First of all, Saturday, and the commentary after the game was that with all the podcasts and all the interviews leading up to the Rugby World Cup final, was that New Zealand did it easy against Argentina. I thought that first 20 didn't look easy at all. I thought Argentina were throwing absolutely everything at them. It was quite physical.
I thought the first half was a real battle for us. Going into the game, we were worried about All Blacks' mindset, having got over the big hurdle, and then, Argentina, would they drop their guard? They didn't, and I think it helped Sean that Argentina kept piling in. Michael Cheika was really angry at the end of the half because he felt their side had been penalised quite a bit at the breakdown. But it was a good way of the All Blacks knowing they had a game on their hands. The fact that they ran away in a canter is neither here nor there. They went in with the right attitude.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The result, I mean, is great, but you wouldn't necessarily define it as easy. And it wouldn't be easy to get up for these kind of games after the Irish game, where it was such a mountain to climb. And like you say, the intensity of Argentina probably kicked into gear enough, and the fitness, I think, got the boys home well and truly in the end. And
could have been
just a bit of extra class showed the difference. Yeah,
could have been 51-6.
Yes, perhaps should have been.
So
Ricky Mo'unga doesn't do that very often. No. And Will Jordan had a World Cup record.
Yeah.
That's right. He was. It was a comment afterwards. Oh, that's right, with Dan Carter saying that he didn't want to give him the ball because he got to keep him hungry. He's just young. He's got time.
I heard another comment afterwards saying, "Well, at least that's the one time Richie didn't throw it, not next week, where he may make a different decision." But
yeah. But I mean, if you look at potentially 51-6, I guess that was quite a hammering. Yes. So. And we talked about building up to hopefully peak at the right time, whether that was the semi or the final. And then let's talk about Sunday. I mean, as everyone was saying, 60 to go, England had it in the bag. I thought they controlled that game so well. And I know I hate the kicking game, but the kicking game I really liked about their game was just putting it into the corners. And if potentially the ball goes out, or it was keeping them in their half, and South Africa were doing a lot of up and unders, but England's 15 just snaffled all of them. And then Owen Farrell would just put these kick throughs into the corner, so it'd either go out for a line out which they could defend, or they could keep them in that half. I just thought they did really well, and I thought their forwards played really well as well.
Yeah, I think especially with the kicking game you referred to, it's easy to bag it, but if you look on paper, the difference between these two teams, and tactically, it was the only way England probably could have won the game.
Dead right.
And they executed it really well. I think the difference in the end was that South African bench and probably the fitness over the 80. Once South Africa around that 60-minute mark took over those scrums and were pretty much getting a penalty every scrum, it was going to be pretty hard to hold them out, to be fair. And although calls in close games can kind of go either way, you kind of felt like South Africa had all the momentum with 15 minutes to go, and they were going to get pretty close, if not get the win.
And they talked about handling errors, but it was wet.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was
English
a
weather.
Bad day.
Yeah,
it was a bad day. And not only their kicking game was on point, but they stopped South Africa's strength a number of times. The line out maul. I count 4 of them that they actually negated and got an advantage out of, which was surprising.
Yeah, their set piece wasn't the best, was it?
Exactly, especially at the line out and the ball, trying to score tries that way. But to South Africa's credit, they didn't give up on it. And then come after the 60-minute mark, it's about the 70-minute mark, when they actually had another opportunity. Instead of taking the 3, kicked to the corner and once again went to their line out. This time executed and scored the try to get them in a position to win the game.
So that's either done two things. Either they've had two rough finals, hard finals, only just beat France. I thought played quite well, got hammered at the start, but then came back. Didn't have their best game against England. And, they always talk about that playoff series where, even New Zealand's been through it, where, one semi-final, they only just beat South Africa by 1 point, didn't have their best game. So was that South Africans' bad game? Not a great set piece. Was it the wet weather? The other factor that people are talking about is the fact that they've had a harder run to get to the final. So on one hand, they've done it tougher, and that's going to put them in good stead with the pressure into the final. They didn't play that fantastic against England, in that first semi. So therefore, they're building to peak in the final. And on the other side of the coin, they're saying, well, New Zealand had a good run. Well, they didn't have a good run. They had to play Ireland for a start. They have had to play France, and they had a warm-up game against South Africa. South Africa also, though, have had a pretty tough run. Ireland, which they lost, Scotland, France, and an English side which everyone underestimated, who were peaking at the right time and did overcome. So the two sides of the coin are that either South Africa have had a tougher run and that puts them in good stead, or it's made them too tired.
Yeah, I think the fatigue angle is one that a lot of people would look at that, because both teams had really, really hard battles at the quarterfinal stage, right? New Zealand, especially in the second half, were able to have a bit of a training run. I hate to say it like that, but it was kind of an opportunity to really, try some stuff. And the South Africans just have had nothing but battles. They will be battle hardened. How good their legs are in the final stages will be telling.
So,
yeah,
that being the case,
I mean, is it more of a case that South Africa just made their run look harder? Like, I don't think necessarily it was a harder run. It's a World Cup. Everyone's playing hard teams, just because they weren't able to put teams away by 20.
Well, that's right.
Points.
I mean, a reasonable Argentinian side would take any of those teams to the wire, wouldn't they? And this is the hard thing to judge. I can't call this final because I don't know whether we were just particularly good at what we were doing against Argentina. And they're saying, well, they played badly. I didn't think they played too badly. I just think we played them out of the game. They didn't have too many options. And South Africa have had two really close ones against a couple of teams potentially that we could have beaten. But no one's calling it. Some of the
I'm prepared to call it.
Okay,
I'm ready to go.
Right, so call the final and why?
New Zealand win, and I think we win by double figures. I think we win by 10 to 15. The interesting part for me will be to see which tactic South Africa bring to the table. I think they will chance their arm and go for tries over penalties. They'll take, they'll turn down shots at goal to go for the 7 points.
Their line out?
Yeah, through the line out. And I think, for us, it's important to probably get a lead and hold a lead rather than, try and grind out against these guys and win via 3-point shots as well. I think we need to go and try to put some tries on these guys and get a lead. That's my opinion. And I think by the 60th minute, we'll be able to start doing that. We'll get some ascendancy and we'll put some points on them in the last 20 minutes and win, not at a canter, but we'll be able to relax by the 78th minute.
78. I love your style. All Blacks to win. I don't care by how much, but I do agree that we've got to play rugby. That what New Zealand's strength is its 15-man approach. And we've just got to take those opportunities, those half breaks that we can create. Got the talent to do it, got the finishers to get the ball down. I just think we've got to keep playing rugby until that South African team tires. The one thing that we don't know right this minute is the makeup of the South Africa bench, because the last time they beat us, they did that 7-1 split on the reserves bench. Be very interesting to see how they go. But I have to think, regardless of that, All Blacks to win, Chris, and we'll be celebrating.
What number 10 are they South Africa going to start with?
I think it's a test match, and they'll go with Andre Pollard. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Not just a test match, a finals Test match, and I think they'll trust their seasoned first five, and then they can bring Libok off the bench should they have that opportunity to start trying to catch up.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the interesting tactic for me for South Africa. Will they take us on at our own game? Because, teams that have taken us on like France and, with their forwards, it's obviously going to be a big battle and with the forwards and the breakdown. I mean, that's going to be the winning or losing of the game, and also set piece. If both teams get that wrong, that's where opportunity is going to come into fruition. Whereas, will South Africa slow the game right down like England did, just slowed everything right down, put the ball in the air and put pressure on us? Or will they chance their arm? They've got the talent to do it, and their forwards will get some go forward, and the backs will go for it. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And that's where I think if they do slow the game down, Pollard comes into his own, because he is a great kicker, and of course, at 95, they dropped Goldust to death, didn't they? They've got that opportunity to get points on the board with the boot, but will they do that? Now, we like to play a fast-paced game, and, we like to throw it around. And the trouble is, if their defence is good, do we have the nous to try something a little bit different, or will we just keep bashing into the brick wall and then put the up and unders? So we have to try little different things, and we probably will, because Mo'unga does at times put it on the toe. We know that Geordie Barrett will try and kick it. We certainly know Bowden Barrett will try and kick it, and even even our wingers will probably have a go at that as well. We've got to try those little different things if we're not getting through like this. But if we win the breakdown, if we can hold our own against the breakdown, and if we have a good set piece, we'll win the game on our attack. And we've been shown that we can defend well. So
is that what you're predicting?
All Blacks.
Good man.
Good man. I was worried.
But
it's going to be a heck of a watch, isn't it?
Most people can't call it.
I do not see South Africa playing like the All Blacks.
No,
they will play a kicking game. They will play for territory.
They'll slow it down.
They will,
of course.
and they will play to their strength, which is their line out more.
And that line out, the line out, the All Black line out will be hopefully on song, because that'll be where they'll be backing themselves to disrupt us quite a bit.
Yep.
I think for us offensively, I think Mo'unga, and combining with his midfield, I think we're going to find some traction through the centres, and I think that's where we make the progress, and hopefully Will Jordan scores a few in the extra point.
Yeah, that's right. He's become the star of the Rugby World Cup. Everyone's talking about him, which we all kind of knew, but he has had.
What did Mitch Hunt call him? Peak Jordan.
Yeah, Mark Talia, he had a fantastic game. Be looking forward to see how he goes.
He is a good player.
Yeah,
his feet are so light and quick, and his stats are amazing in a game. So look, lots to be excited about. It is a case of hopefully there is enough minutes of the ball in play for us to play a game.
I saw a lineup. People do lineups on social media, and someone had put in Blackadder and Roygaard for the final. So there you go, Blackadder, straight in there. Number 6, we need him. And then Roygaard's up. Well, I don't think they'll do that. They won't. They won't put Roygaard into a final now.
No.
Christie will be there, won't they?
Does Dane Coles make the team?
Yes.
I hope so.
Oh, sorry. That was in this guy's team. Sorry. Yes. Not announced yet. So it'd be interesting because
I think so.
Who misses out?
Well, because they were talking about the go forward that they get with, Coles has got the experience, and certainly when he comes on as an impact player, he gets some go forward as well. But it's whether they think they're going to need that at the.
Look, he's perfect for a South African test.
Yeah,
he'll
roll them up.
Someone mentioned that Tokiahu you might have that he's great for a game against Argentina because he brings another ball runner into play, but. No, I think you
Colesy or
want
Nicola?
a niggly guy.
Yeah. Coles, you want to upset the apple cart. It's going to be huge, 8 a.m. Saturday morning, and the breakfast will be flying right here at O'Shedigan's on Bridge Street. So good luck to both teams. And are we going to be able to cope?
Yes.
We'll survive.
We'll survive. Okay. You're with the Mako Rugby Roundup. It's our great pleasure to welcome Shane Drummond to the show. Shane has been involved with Tasman Rugby since its inception in 2005 as a shareholder in the Highlanders and as you well know, a well-known businessman, owner of the car company. Welcome, Shane.
Welcome
Great to have you here, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
We can call you Drummy, can we?
Oh, you like I get called a few names. Probably the most notable one though.
You grew up in Motueka.
Yeah.
And is that where you first got into car sales? Was it there?
Well, it probably started from there, but so I coming back to the rugby thing to start with. Yeah, born and bred in Mott.
Yes.
I wore my gear to bed the night before I played my first game for Mott United.
Okay,
Oh,
good
wow.
club.
So I played from midgets to senior footy. I've played every single grade in Nelson Bay's rugby. Literally classics footy as well for presidents. Under 16, under 18, presidents, senior third, senior B and senior A. So right from midgets, played every single grade. So come from the rugby background to when I was about 17 in Motueka and decided that I wanted to start a further selling career. So I worked at Whitwall's Menswear.
Oh, right. Yes,
First
I
ever
remember
job,
that.
Maori Whitwall. They're all no longer with us, but an important man to my start of my career. Then went over to Haywrights, which was and started a record bar selling appliances, car stereos.
God, that name goes that goes back.
True
Hey,
story.
right.
Yeah. So Maori owned that as well. So I went, I was selling footwear and kids' clothing because I was that size. So what I was selling, I could fit into. I was pretty small back then. And then went to Haywrights because I showed a bit of sales ability. And then, for some reason, the car selling thing gave me a bit of a twingle, and there was a job in Motueka at the time because Houston Motors was starting over there many years ago. And I went home and typically did my little thought factor, which is not normally that long. And I actually sent a job application in. I didn't write it. I've got a copy of it. You'll laugh. I'll actually show you guys. My brother wrote it, full of interesting unfacts, spelling mistakes. And that's where it started. And I was sitting at Haywrights in Motueka with the office girl. And this elderly gentleman come in and said, "Is Shane Drummond here, please?" to the office manager. He said, "Yeah, who's there?" He said, "Oh, Shane, Henry Houston."
Oh, wow.
And I won't tell you what I actually thought at the time using the language, and I was stupid. So he come in and said, "Oh, I got your application was sorted out for Motueka, but I want to talk to you further about a role in Nelson." I was all but and booked to go to Perth for an OE
Oh, no.
with a mate that's still there. So he went then, and I had to sit and dwell on the thought of still going to Perth, with my mate to have an OE, or take this role, which could have been my future, and ended up being my future.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I've only ever worked for two people. Maori Whitwall, who's obviously Les and you guys will know of, owning Whitwall's Menswear, and I was an inaugural part of that business and family. And then to Henry Houston, who I was the son that he never had. He had three daughters, and I just didn't work for him until I worked for myself. So had two jobs, and Maori Whitwall, big rugby man, and Henry Houston, a big businessman, and massively respected the two of them. So I couldn't have had two better people. And I live for Henry being my opportunist and my mentor. And I spoke at his funeral at the cathedral, and I'm really proud that he was sold and gave me the disciplines and the job ethics that I've now taken forward.
Mm-hmm.
He is my man.
So was it Motueka High to begin with?
Yeah. Sorry.
No.
I did go to Mott High. Yeah, I've moved a bit. Because we lived in Marahau, busing to Ruwaka School, which I was at the time, was pretty hard, and I was quite interested in sport. So I ended up going to board at Nelson College.
Ah, right.
Third and fourth form, living in a dormitory, 10 beds in a room for 2 years. And I went basically for sport.
So what house was that?
Barnacote.
Barnacote.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
still there.
It is still there.
Yeah. So I did that, and again enjoyed and met a lot of people I still have contact with, which is again life stories. And then fifth form, for some reason, I wasn't really that committed at school. I spent a lot of time outside the classroom. It was quite boring sitting out there after being sent there. And I did 1 year, the fifth form at Mott High. So I went back and did the busing again from Marihale to Mott High every day. And I tell you, you go through criteria as well. And the buses were pretty old and pretty interesting. And I had to walk quite a way to get to the bus stop. So 1 year of that, I'm not that patient. And yeah, I just wanted to get in the working game, and I wanted to sell from day one.
So with the rugby, the transition from Motueka to Nelson, was that with the move with Mitsubishi, or was it school days? So presumably, what did you play a bit at college?
Yeah, I did third and fourth form. They had third form teams and fourth form teams, which I played for. But then obviously to Motueka High, which was then played for under 16s, and then went play for Huia actually at under 18. But yeah, so it was the transition. When I went to Nelson, I still came back and played for Walker Senior B. So I was playing footy then for them then. So I travelled back for training every day. Still having that Motueka man. I mean, there was a few of us, Greg Ingles, Doug McMillan, there was a few of us that did that trip back each week to play. And we won 2 competitions at Senior B for Walker, and had a great lot of local legends in that team, Lawrence Graham and a lot of guys that again, Philip Soanes, and we had again, I suppose you play with your mates and you enjoy it, and that's why you carried on doing it. Then I came back to Nelson and played for Nelson Club. Again, Senior B, and we won the competition there. Not through my abilities, just luckily enough to be a
Where were you, Jet? I remember you mainly on the wing? Would it be on the wing?
No, my only senior game though, Chris, was played on the wing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's a memory I had.
9 and 10. Oh yeah, ever.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, kick off both feet, never tackled.
Old school.
Yeah, it's too Damon, lovely. Andrew Mertens.
Oh, so that the beloved Nelsons. So that when you started playing for them, that was the start of a long-term relationship, and then eventually you got into administration quite young.
Yeah, I was on the Huia committee back when I was under 18s.
Oh wow!
So I was on their committee, and then come over here. Nelson was on their committee and ended up taking over as president, and we won the senior competition while I was there. With that, we again was strong and.
Geez, how old were you then when you took?
I'm trying to look at me notes to when I was the president there. Huia was 88 to 91. Was on their committee for 3 years. I haven't got the actual dates.
Yeah, right.
President. Oh, that's Tasman. The president of Nelson as well.
It'll be on a photo on the clubhouse wall.
So committee was quite young. I mean, you took on that administrative responsibility quite young.
Yeah, I worked out reasonably quickly that playing rugby at a high level was not my act. Loved the game, but wasn't really that good at it. Average, but I was never going to go anywhere. So I thought, well, I'm a seller and I'm an administrator. I love doing things for people.
Yeah.
And that's probably where it steered.
So in that role, you got involved.
That's right.
Could
be a sale. You might have to take that, mate.
No, it's okay. He's just come back from the World Cup. He's a South African.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So in that role with the Nelson Club, you ended up being involved with Nelson Bays, and then in 2005 became a foundation board member of the Tasman Rugby Union. So we're keen to hear firsthand what went on behind the scenes that create, the discussions between the leadership of Nelson Bays and Marlborough to finally press the go button on creating the Tasman Rugby Union.
Yeah, that was really interesting, sometimes exciting, sometimes different. But yeah, me and Max Spence were the 2 delegates from Nelson Bays, because we had 2 delegates from Nelson Bays, 2 delegates from Marlborough, and ended up a couple of independents as well. So we worked really hard to try and bring that opportunity together to become Tasman and to become in that top flight, which we'd won senior third competitions as Nelson Bays, we'd won senior B competitions as Nelson Bays, and the only way forward from there was to go up. So yeah, and to be up on that top tier, you needed player numbers, you needed financials, you needed playing facilities, and the criteria to be in what they called the top level back then was quite difficult, and we were never being able to do it on our own. So yeah, the challenge, and you'll know, and I listened to Max's podcast, which I thought was exceptional. I actually listened to it from in Christchurch, and and he's obviously, I'm keeping in contact with him at the World Cup as we speak. So yeah, him and I, and he was the leader, because I'm always the guy, as probably Les has got to see a bit of my doings, is probably behind the scenes. I'm not the one. I never want to be the chairman. I never want to be the guy, but I want to be the worker. And some of the stuff we've done, which we'll touch on, the ABs and that test here, it was always, my job was always behind the scenes. It's never, and I don't want kudos. I don't want, look at me. I've never done anything for look at me, but I want to get things done. So when we had that discussion of bringing top level footy to our area, and I say our area because it is Nelson Marlborough, I was pretty excited about the opportunity, but crikey, there were some challenges doing it, and I'm sick of that hill. And I don't say I don't like going over it. I just did it. So me and Max, the late nights that we did with meetings, every second meeting was there, even when we set up, but setting the business up. We had some really good people on the driving committee with Brian and a couple of the guys that we had from over there, that they were positively driven, which is my nature. So in other words, we want an outcome, we want a solution, we just had to get there. And by crikey, there were some challenges. And I'm not going to sit here and say what they all were, because there were so many, but crikey, there was obstacles to the cows come home, whether it was personnel from this side or that side, or whether it was NZR just constantly punching back. And no, we just never gave up. And when we got there, and it's been interesting, as you know, but by crikey, I think it's the best thing we ever did for the benefit of Tasman footy and our kids' opportunities. Probably the biggest thing that I observed with all this is our communities were all behind it. Our kids want to be Mako. Even Marlborough kids want to be Mako, but sometimes passionate political people have different agendas, and we just work through that, rightly or wrongly. But this is where we got, and I'm proud of being part of that inaugural part of it. I was only one piece of that puzzle. There was lots of us that did lots of work. Don't ever think it was a Shane Drum and Max Spence show. It was not. There was
Max talked about the really good people that were involved from the Marlborough side. So I'm sure our listeners are well aware that it was a massive team effort, but it does take leadership to get this stuff across, and kudos to the leaders in your working group.
Yeah, and as I say, the rest is history, and you can look back at some times and say there's some pretty cool things that you've been a part of. But everything I do is a team. There's no I.
Yeah, we're going from that. So into that 2006 inaugural season, you took on a role as player recruitment side of things. There were some pretty big names in that first team, some that lived up to the hype and some that maybe fell a bit short. You must have learned quite a bit through that process as well.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing, because again, we didn't have, like every other union has, high performance managers and people that are recruiting and doing that job like they all do now. And I probably had a finger on. I recruited pretty well for the Nelson Club. We had guys like Murray Henderson, Guy Paulin, lots of guys that we brought in and built a club team that won championship. So again, you can't start in the first division and have when I say a bunch of amateurs, because that's what we were, not taking anything away from the people like, Khan Fortualii and Brighty. Brighty's a legend in my book. And Khan, not far off it, but we had a lot of local guys, but we couldn't do it with those. There's no denying. You can't go from second division for first and expect to compete. I think we won 3 games in that first year. The first game was at Marlborough against North Harbour, and I had to come back from an overseas trip to be at that game. And I remember flying in that afternoon, then jumping in a car and driving straight over to it. But yeah, we had guys, some interesting ones. Currently All Black coach, Greg Fick. He was probably one of our more challenging ones. Because we expected him to be fit and ready, and he wasn't. So that was, and trust me, if again, I won't indulge into dollars, but it was a big ask for us investing in something so big. Peter Playford's, Beetham was another real goodie. First 5, I'm trying to Ben Gollings. English first 5, Sevens Guru. We had some pretty cool ones, a couple of English propping a lot. But yeah, we just tried to build our local guys and put some strength in, your key positions, front row and, your playmaker. And interesting.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
The spine.
Don't know, we got it right, so you can blame me.
Did anything stand out for that first season that you really loved the most about it, or
Just seeing it,
just in action,
mate? Just arriving to Lansdowne Park that day, seeing a pretty full stadium, just magical.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's, again, you're just part of it. You walk in, you just sit at your seat, and you just express yourself internally. That's how I do it. I just look at the ground a little bit. Well, we'll talk about the All Black thing. Mate, self-satisfaction internally, but satisfaction for our community. Bloody great.
Yeah, well, last week Kahu talked about that first game and the fireworks going off at number 6, and it would have been a marvelous,
Corey Holdaway
inauguration.
There were some cool people that earned the opportunity locally. That was cool to see.
As a board member in 2008, there was some indication starting to happen about the financial stability of the union. So how stressful was that period? And then New Zealand Rugby getting involved, and of course you had to try and resolve those issues and also keep that marriage with them going together.
Yeah, well, by asking that question, you half know the answer. Bloody difficult at every end possible, whether it was internally Nelson Base, externally the community, externally the New Zealand Rugby Union, and they just keep throwing boulders at us. Pebbles are good, so you can deflect them, but some big ones came at us, and that, we in Nelson, of course we don't own the ground; it's owned by council, which around the country is mainly that way. Of course, Marlborough own their ground with a significant debt on it, of course, as you'd expect, and I don't say that negatively, but we're in the business of playing footy, not owning properties. So obviously, with that, strategically, we needed to get ourselves in a better position financially. So all these different moves around the table that we had to make. And then, of course, when you're going to tell someone that's born and bred in Marlborough that you're going to have to sell Lansdowne Park, you can only imagine the stalwarts, what they would think of that at the time. I think when they look back, you go, well, crikey, that's the best thing we ever did. But at the time, when you build a covered stadium at Dunedin, the ratepayers went spastic for 2 years. Now, mate, they think it's the greatest thing. Sometimes making decisions for the benefit and the future can be risky, and it was. We just had to do it. Otherwise, again, we were screaming down the end of we were losing money hand over fist because we couldn't make it. It's tough to run a business professionally in footy, and trust me, you'll touch on another part of that game shortly. The only way you make money is sponsorship and gate takings, basically. And if you haven't got the population and the people that will pay, it's a tough gig. So tough. All those decisions, Chris, that you can ever think of were tough, but we had to be big boys around the table for the benefit. Again, take off our hats of politics or emotions, the benefit of the footy at the end of the day. And I think we got there, and I think we did it right. I mean, again, some people might have a different opinion, but I think we did it right, and the outcome is good. Yeah. So detail, probably not the right place, but I think you're reading into the question. The answer was difficulty, but crikey, we worked our way. So the challenge of getting together was start, and then challenging to stay together on the big stage.
Because was that around about the same time they were talking about dropping the numbers as well? So there was that as well. Yeah,
some teams they were talking about dropping, I think 3 or might have been 4 at the time.
Yeah,
and we were one of them.
Yeah.
So again, they looked at the the Manawatu's, the Tasmans. I can't remember the
Southland and Northland. I remember Northland.
So they were all on the pot as well, which again was difficult. So we're talking, but at the same time we're fighting, and to fight someone really by yourself, but with others that are in a probably worse or equally as bad position, that's a tough fight. You put yourself in that in anything you do. When you're on the bottom of the pile, and you're an easy way out for them because of these reasons, financially and da-da-da. But the only other thing that was the benefit from us was the New Zealand wanted our amalgamation to work, because they think that was the good for rugby, because others had failed. And we have succeeded. As I say, we've had our terms, but Tasman in general, as an amalgamation with Nelson and Marlborough, has succeeded. And to be fair, you look at other provinces, probably should do that with financial situations within provincial rugby. It's a tough gig to survive, no question. And Les will know that as much as anybody.
Yeah, and I suppose at the end of the day, my perception from the outside was that community wanted it.
That's what I said right from the start. You go on the street and we want to be making all the gear that you see now. I go overseas. I see Mako gear everywhere. I see this, the fins up. Like Shannon did it on the weekend again. And mate, we're legendary. We're everybody's second team if we're not the first.
Yeah, for sure.
That's worldwide, not locally. I mean, we're all locally, they're us, but you go to, to Auckland, if Auckland's the A team, which sometimes it's not, trust me, Tasman's the second one. Everywhere you go. And I don't say that because people want to tell me to make me feel happy. They actually mean it. They love our style of footy. They love our way that we've gone about things. They love the fight that we've been in forever. Not all bad. The outcome, tough the way through.
Speaking about that community engagement in 2009, at that time, that was the second year of the financial pressures and New Zealand rugby pressures. There was a community engagement fundraising idea called Save Our Mako, of which you conceptualized this idea. So you must have been very pleased the way the community got behind that.
Well, that was probably backbone and proof that what we were trying to achieve was reality. And again, we're part of that and known it. And it wasn't me. Lots of people did it, but I know that I might have come up with the idea and went pretty powerful at the public with it. But I had a pretty good group. I don't do things on my own. You can't get 100 grand in on the door.
Totally get that. But seeing photos of kids on the embankments holding up signs saying "Save Our Mako," very, very cool. And I believe it raised something like $100,000.
It was over 100 grand.
Yeah,
and all paid up, not people putting their name to it. Not we're chasing it.
What was the pledge you made? Was it $500, $1,000?
I can't remember the amount. I mean, I had to kickstart it. You've got to put your money where your mouth is. And I'm reasonably good for that. I suppose looking back, revisiting, that's quite cool as well because I don't actually think about those things much now.
No, but they were important, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. And again, it's one of those pleasurable things. But we had a good team, and you had good commercial people around us. Your Blackadders, and you had some figureheads that were a part of our team. Yeah. So that's cool. But it's one of those things.
So what do we got here? 2010, you stepped down from the TRU board, became president 2014 and 15, and then made a life member of the union. You must be, you touched on it a wee bit, but you must be fairly satisfied with your contribution that you've made through that time period.
Yeah, I am, Sean. I love it, and I still do it because I love it. Family first, rugby and work are my two next pleasures of life, to be fair. Last weekend I was up in the quarterfinal, Taranaki versus Canterbury, watching Mitch play. We chased rugby all around the country and world. Mitch obviously played a test in Japan, come off the bench, and we were hoping one did because they took three halfbacks. We took the risk and took Sarah and Nicole over there to hope like Ali was one in the team too. He got on the paddock. No, sometimes the risk you take, but mate, I'm rugby, family, and work. There's not too many things else I'd get up to. But
no time left.
I love the things I do. And I love the people around me to do it.
So your son played for Canterbury, Canterbury or Tasman.
Yeah,
you Canterbury or Tasman.
That's a really common question.
I know
you will know a difficult one, but blood comes first as far as him. But not necessarily the team. I'm a Tasman. I've spent the last 48 hours having lots of interesting phone calls. But I'm a Tasman man. I was part of the start, and I'll be part of the finish of me, not the union. But it's just. But I'll change.
Well, let's talk about that split loyalty because we've got Tasman.
Twice, mate.
Because we've got Tasman, Mako. We've got Canterbury with your son, and in 2015 you got involved as a private investor in the Highland Super Rugby team.
You want to complicate life, don't you? Because I do. So I was sitting in a Christchurch hotel. Phone goes from a particular man, and there was a deal that was struck with the Highlanders from an offshore group. Not many people probably know that. And it fell over. The Highlanders were at bottom of the table financially. New Zealand Rugby were running them. No one wanted them, and there was a difficult time for them. And this overseas group basically agreed to buy it, but then at the last minute threw some conditions in that were unbearable for New Zealand Rugby, which was great for us. And then this person found out that had happened. He ran up and said, "Drummer, do you want to buy a super team?" Literally like that. I said, "Hang on, what are you talking about?" And he explained. He said, "What had happened?" I said, "Well, my first team would have been the Crusaders. Obviously, locally we're a shareholder. I've got a boy playing it, but yeah, I mean, if you can own a rugby team, yeah, bring me on. So two of the other guys, I'd never heard of. So there's a South African guy that lived in Sydney. There's a Canadian guy that sort of lived in Canada as well as Dunedin, and there was a Christchurch guy, which I did know, the guy that rung me. None of those guys are part of it anymore, just me. But that was the phone call. He said, there's the two other guys, you'll be happy with them. You've got to trust me. I said, yeah, right, I'm in. And that's literally how that happened. Literally how quickly I said yes. And then over the next 12 months. So we went to the 215 final. We had New Zealand hosted us. Already bought it before they played the final. No one knew. And we couldn't be seen or done. No one knew. And we were at the aftermatch and stuff after that game that they won. But we were in behind the scenes doing the deal well before they actually won it. And then the rest is history. But yeah, that's how it happened. And of course, like you talk about Mitch with Tasman and Canterbury, you've also got Crusaders and Highlanders. So
Yeah.
I've got two teams. But yeah, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
One's business, one's passion, and one's family. So, crikey, sorry.
So
I haven't got three.
So how does that? I mean, without going into the depths of ownership, but how does that go? Owning, is it a business or is it basically a non-profit entity? Is it just for the good of the game? But is it business?
That's business,
right?
So, yeah, we bought the company, the shares in the company, and me and Peter Keane, so when we bought it, New Zealand stayed in with 10%, and we had to have with 10% you get a board member. So we had a guy that we basically elected from New Zealand Rugby Union who was on the board by the name of Peter Keane. He used to be CEO of Lion Breweries for 20 odd years, very astute, very connected, real good man. So we elected him because he has Otago, Dunedin influence from living there, and he's got a place there still now down there. So he came on. So that's where I met Keno. And then, of course, he fell off New Zealand Rugby Union. So we got a replacement person. And then, of course, we started doing some deals with the purchasing of other shareholders. So one of them was involved with a ticket company that went sideways, upside down and inside out. And I bought his shares through the liquidator, and again, drawn out saga, but got there. Then one of the other shareholders decided he wanted to sell. So he again negotiated with me, and that happened. And then because he went, the guy that was with him, the South African guy, he decided he wanted to go. So because they were probably more three knitted more than me. I was probably more the passionate rugby guy that had a couple of quid. And so they're all now, me and Keno are major shareholders. We're over 60 between the two of us equally. So I bought him, and knowing what was going on, I said, Keno, you need to be paid. He was in boots and all. So I didn't want 80% of Highlands, I'll give you a tip. But I had to do it to orchestrate the end result, which was Keno in with, put him as chairman, because trust me, I don't want that job. I never wanted Tasman's chairman job. I'm in behind doing the deal, but not the guy fronting it. And then, of course, through Keno's influences, we brought on Gags, another shareholder of 10, and of course the Mark Ellis Group, which are a lot of fun. Don't lose sight of quite clever.
Yeah, right.
Because we see the fun side of Mako, but trust me, he's a very clever man.
Yeah.
And Keno had lots to do with his Charlie's deal, which came under Lion Breweries, which basically overnight made Mark Ellis a lot of money for Charlie's coming under Lion, and then he sold Charlie's off for a lot of money, as publicly as known. But him and John Timu and a few of the other boys, Blakey and stuff down there, are going to be key influences to our business. So that's quite a bit of info.
Right.
I've not shared this.
I had another question, but that's even more depth. Well, it's more about in today's society with a franchise in rugby that you can make money.
Yeah, well, interesting. This is, and again, you won't know this. So not counting last year, for the 5 years on the trot, the Highlanders were the only super team that made money every year.
Wow. So
our group was more involved in getting a return for our investors, and there was a percentage put on that at board level. We've now turned that round, saying we're going to put our investment into development, as you'll probably see a little bit of last year, a little bit more this year, and certainly a lot next year, of investing in our future rather than trying to make a dollar. And we never tend to take it out. We need to send our message to our operational team and our CEO that this is not a charity. we need to make money out of this. So we just changed our thinking a little bit, but and trust me, it's not a lot of money. You know, like if you knew it, you'd laugh, but it still was above the black line, which is more important than anything. So yeah, but only way you make money out of a super team again is bums on seats and sponsorship.
I was going to say, so it must be membership and
That's
sponsorship. That's the main thing.
Yep.
But if you're not making big money out of it and it's mainly kept within the game, that must be, from your personal point of view, an investment in the game, not necessarily just there to make money.
Yeah, well, I was amongst a group that had a different thought, but I in the background was trying to say that let's make rugby a good style, because of course under the roof we played at 1 mile an hour. That was our way of point of difference, because every second week we were under the roof, so we weren't playing. The trouble is every other second week we were out the wet and cold, and we weren't used to it. So we were playing a fast game, and we didn't have the forwards to be able to do it. So we just had to move, and under Derms we've moved to be a bit more of a standard game of footy, boring game. In comparison to what we were set out to do when you got Brownie, and some of the coaches that we had previously were fast and furious, and we had the stock to do it with, your Ben Smiths and your Holos, and we had some guys to finish the game off well. So we stayed competitive, but then last couple of years we probably haven't had that competitive edge to be able to do that. So it was invest in the game without worrying about return, and that's where we've moved. So, the Crusaders obviously are great at what they do. They are the best, there's no question, but they put all their money into development, and look what happens. We just can't get people to go to live in Dunedin and Southland the same as you want to go to Christchurch. So the player pool, we struggle for, I'll be honest, because it's just not that, when you're not the top team and you're in a struggling place for people to live, you struggle to get both. It's just life again. But we're up for the challenge, and, the influence that Jamie Joseph coming back, I'm sure will have a big bearing on that player belief.
But you're talking about a more pragmatic approach to the game on the park, as opposed to the helter-skelter that of the past. I want to get away from your own story a little bit and seek your opinion on something. So I want to talk about the high-performance academies. There's a lot of talk about those 5 super franchises taking over the high-performance academies in this country at the expense of NPC unions like Tasman providing that service. So do you have an opinion on that and how it might impact local clubs in provinces who use the academy structure to attract players to the provinces?
Well, a tricky question for me, because I have an answer for it, but it's probably, it is probably more personal. So this is not a Tasman message or a Highlander message or anything else. I think there's room for both, but it's got to be the top tier of recruitment and development has got to be at super level, because that's where you become a professional footballer. So I think they've got to be in control of it, but whether it's a second tier or part of that tier, having that provincial, you've got to have people coming through club footy and being a part of the Tasman academy development. You have to. Then they get identified. You can't. Those guys can't all go forward.
No, not all of them will.
No,
dead right.
There's a small percentage of my mate professional footballers have been in that room in the past as a parent. So I don't know that it's currently right, but it's close in the sense of having your local one with identification. We had 7 Nelson College boys obviously go to that Crusader under 18 tournament in Blenheim a couple of weeks ago, which was outstanding representation. Not all those kids will become Crusaders, but they've been identified from being in the Tasman group. So there's 100%, in my opinion, a place for both identification and, there's no way these kids can all go to Christchurch and be under Crusaders, or the Southland guys all shift up at a young age. I watched TV last night seeing a couple of kids that the Broncos and at 13 years of age, this guy's been identified. That's how low it's going in the age group. That's a worry, because we're fighting to keep our kid locally here, selling him the dream of being a Mako. That's the first dream, because the second dream becomes more of a dream, and the third dream of being an AB or whatever is even more again. So let's stick with the close dream and keep it close knit. And then obviously within that group, and I deal with a little bit of this every now and then, seeing identification of younger people and seeing where their road goes. But Crusaders' strength is not being rushing anybody. They take, this is my highway. I'll take you down at my pace. our probably approach at the Highlanders is we'll get you there quicker. We've got to be different.
But
I swear the same. We're never going to win.
Is there a Highlanders Academy in
Yes.
Invercargill?
No. Well, there's Southland one.
Yeah, okay, that's what I meant.
Yeah, it sort of sits under the Highlanders, and our relationship with both those unions is very good. Yes,
Yeah.
but it needs to be.
Yes, you get a lot of young Southland talent coming through right
yeah,
now.
you've noticed that. Well, look at that
Yeah.
schoolboys one.
Yep,
You wouldn't.
I did.
I mean, I don't know if you saw this, Sean and Chris, but obviously Southland boys winning that schoolboy competition, beating the South Island teams that went through, beating on the North. That's crazy.
Yeah.
To see a team from South. That's outstanding.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's great to hear, because I think that Tony Lewis worked very hard to get the Tasman Academy Nelson underway.
Yep.
In cahoots with the Canterbury Crusaders Academy.
Crusader
Academy. It's just the way to go, and the talk otherwise is foolish, I think.
Oh, that's my opinion.
Yeah,
Opinion
my
only.
opinion too.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Another big highlight for rugby fans was the hosting of the first ever All Blacks Test in Nelson, 2018. Another event that you played a fairly big role in as one of 3 commercial underwriters on this occasion. What was the backstory around getting involved in that and then seeing that come to fruition?
Yeah, well, that was probably a 3-way sort of initial discussion. Les, myself, and Tony Lewis, sort of who came up with the idea. Let's not argue about it, but we just sort of agreed on that was an awesome opportunity. Then I remember having me and Tony met with the current mayor at the time, Rachel Reese, at the Tides, had a little coffee. Rachel believed in it, but obviously needed to get council support. So this was all done well behind the scenes, again, as Les will well know. So we were pitching, and how we went about it by underwriting was it was the difference of getting that game. Of course, I had a bit of influence with a few board members, and the coach at the time knew reasonably well from the All Blacks and the manager. So it's making sure that they agreed on wanting to come here. So a bit of groundwork was always done. But the biggest influence, when I had all the board members from New Zealand Rugby after that game, and fella Go Lightly and Winston Peters' brother and the rest, in a room saying, mate, sitting around the board table, we had no choice. What you came to with us as a board member to underwrite a game had never been done before, and it was the difference of getting the game. Without question, because money talks at All Black level, trust me.
Yeah.
We did it. We probably did one thing in regret with that whole, I mean, we got there because of it, and now it's stuffed it up for every other small union in New Zealand. Now you've got to bid for a game, because taking a game to Napier or Nelson or whatever and hoping you're going to fill it is gone. That will no longer happen. We've literally stuffed that opportunity up by being quite creative. And obviously it got us to go, I'd never do it again. The pressure on.
Yeah, right.
I rang 2 guys and said, look, here's an idea, will you get behind it? Basically over the phone. Both said yes, over the phone to me, again, trusting and believed in it. So I got their support. I think it's commonly known who they are.
Yeah, Mike Fraser and Paul Jensen.
Great fellas. Again, passionate rugby men that I believed in. And so I rang them, said, boys, are we in? The only thing I didn't do, we underwrote it to a significant figure. And right up to Wednesday of that week, when New Zealand were playing Silly Buggers with ticket sales, I was stressing about, crikey, is this going to cost me?
Never in doubt.
Yeah, it's all right. Someone had not put their balls on. And he was right, but still, until that sold sign came up a few days before, I was thinking. But what we didn't do was we should have kept it at that figure. And then when we went over it, which we did, we should have shared in the love. As in Tasman should have got a bit of that money. And that was my downfall, So at the board table, they're going, you underwrite 1.2 million, that's banked. We've got it, whether we sell the tickets or not, great. But when we went well over that, they took all the cream, and I buggered them. And normally I'm quite good when it comes to negotiating.
Listeners shouldn't be concerned that we didn't make any money.
No. There was parts of that game we were allowed to make money.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about, hey, we marketed the game, got the gates full at our risk. And I'm thinking with that we should have taken the cream of the bonus. Definitely. And in business, you normally would do that. Mate, you take the risk, you also need to take a bit of glory if you get there. The glory was the game, don't get me wrong.
The last week, Chris, and Sean, was amazing, because we were at around the break-even point, Well, three good things happened, right? One, the sun came out and the forecast for the whole week was sunshine. Two, the All Blacks came into town and their pure presence just got things cranking. And then three, New Zealand Rugby let us do a kids deal on pricing. So by the Wednesday, sold outside games up, and I get a bit of a smile from Shane.
Yeah. You don't know how big that smile was at the time. But we had no idea of where it sat financially.
Yeah.
We knew it was getting close, but they held back tickets, prime tickets we thought were sold. They were holding them.
Right.
They placed. That's just the way they do it. Maybe it's right or wrong. But from here,
and then they released them.
Oh, I see. I see.
We're telling people they sold. You go online, they sold out. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, some come back on the market. Hang on.
So it's to build the fervour to say we're almost sold out, and then by the way, we've got some more.
That was crippling.
Yeah.
Beyond the commercial relief of getting there must have been some personal satisfaction amongst the group and actually seeing the event take place and seeing it full and the hype building up and following. I'd imagine.
Like Les says, the weather forecast made the day. Like Nelson that morning, I remember coming to town at 11 o'clock and half the roads were closed and stuff. Seeing the vibe amongst Nelson and all the people that came to town, because a lot of people came from outside. So in other words, it was a good investment for the Nelson City Council to bring people to Nelson. Mate, it couldn't, other than getting cold sort of 20 minutes on and
into the game.
Yeah. Mate, that was an absolute, that's take to your grave stuff. Seriously. I mean, there's been some good things happen, but people say, when we're doing the next one, Drummy, good luck. I
was going to say
someone else's job.
No one would.
From a spectator, from a fan only point of view, I remember as well, like the hype and everything. It's unreplicated in anything else we've done around Nelson.
Credit's got to go to Tasman Rugby and the team that built it up. Because I mean, I know the event was the test match. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of work done by the Tasman staff.
It was a year's work.
Like we had to get shipping companies, which I was involved in as well, getting seating down from Auckland through the port, and everyone wants this, mate. They are all handing out, and we were trying to save every last dollar and get every seat, because obviously at a test match you pay more for a seat than general admission, and we were trying to up our yield to get more money in, to make the occasion better. And I don't know. I'm interested to know from you, Les, because you're more operational, but I don't know that we could have done it a lot better.
No, there was zero complaint, except about something that we couldn't control, which was the weather. But in preparing for this chat with you, Drummy, I went back to some old stuff articles, and there was one article from a lot of the hospitality venues in town, and guys like Harry at Harry's and Hop Goods.
I've got messages from them.
And Gary Munro at Trailways. I mean, they were saying that they had the most amazing week of
easily, and that was the biggest thing. Was like,
Sean, you're involved with it.
The things like you have like the Bay Dreams, for example, massive one night event, but the All Blacks event was at least a week long, and then a couple of days afterwards, it was a block of time where everything was full on.
I mean, future stuff. We can look at for opportunities is obviously North-South games, and maybe, I threw in last year to try and get a Moana Pacifica game here early in the piece. I'm just creative in that area of what ifs and why not. So there were two that I'm always, the North-South would be a cool one. Middle, central New Zealand, there's a bit of impact behind it, and I'm creative in that area. And so that was a throw in the pot if that happens again. Maybe if we can't get a Crusader game here, whether we get another game, as I say, Moana Pacific or.
Let's not forget the Black Ferns either, because they came to town. 2019, 2020, and they were marvellous in town. And again, it's people staying in hotels, and the crowd was strong that came and watched them. They preceded a semi-final for the Tasman Mako. You could put them on as a main game, and people will go and watch them now because they've got a brand that's exciting.
Yeah, we probably earned that right because of what we'd already achieved, Les, with the big game.
Absolutely.
It's two things.
And the quality of the field.
Yeah, and I mean, and to be fair, the Mako, the way and where we sit in the standard as high as we do, we earn the right. That wasn't a gift.
Oh, yes, dead right. You're talking about the main game curtain raiser type thing.
Anything that we now get, we earn the right. I mean, we work hard to get everything because it's not a given. Like to give that test match was, like the public would have never have known it was even being created. Like we were just in the background going, we can do this. It's a dream, but this is real. But the underwrite was just a winner. And then of course from that now they sit up and listen when Tasman talk. Well, we're a contender. Don't think we're a 50,000 population little town. We're a major contender with everything we do, and we've got to back ourselves for that.
Yeah, there's some hurdles there now. Just there's some debate around alcohol sponsorship and certain conditions and stuff like that. So that's going to be an interesting outcome, because if it goes pear-shaped, hopefully they can sort something out. But that kind of sets a precedent, and it's going to be interesting if we try and put events on in the future around those kind of things. Because
stadiums is sometimes a worry, Chris, and that this latest one, I was on the Nelson Cricket Board years ago as well, again helping out on the background when they were working away. But to see that of recent, because I got rung by the local cricket man about 3 months ago, excited that we got the game, and through some organisations I'm involved in, we do support that, and so he was excited. But now and then to see this as a bit of a hurdle, like, mate, we want to be on the map, and we don't want to be having these discussions because no one else is, to me, it's almost like the policy needs to go up the chain to government, because, basically if they're going to make that as a ruling, it needs to be for every venue, so it's a fair playing field. But now Nelson's not going to be a fair playing field. And yes, there's argument about the social side, and I totally understand that argument of what they're trying to achieve, but it makes us very difficult to attract larger events that bring money into the economy if we're going to put walls up all the time and not try and work with people, and solve those problems as we go. Hopefully they can do that. Yeah, we're with the Highlands, we're Spates sponsors as we are locally. And there was we were on the front of the jersey a couple of years ago, and there was saga with that. Well, sometimes that's where the money comes from, and they've got a business the same as we all have, but we want these events, and it is we've all got an opinion on it, rightly or wrongly, and I'm not a broadcaster on it. But it saddens me that we lose out on an opportunity. I mean, still people have the choice to drink or not. I know some people might overindulge and it doesn't bring the same atmosphere at the end, but that's a minority. So reality is who pays wins sometimes to be able to get these things. I didn't even know Asahi was a cricket sponsor. It's great that they are, because it used to be your mainstream brands, but it's interesting, and good on them for backing New Zealand cricket, but don't take the opportunities away that they're buying into. Like you say, why should we differ?
Yeah. So I just think it should be an even playing field if we're going to go down that road. Yeah.
Good point.
You're a family man, successful businessman. You and your wife, Sarah, must be pretty thrilled with your kids. They've gone on to represent New Zealand, your daughter, Nicole, in touch rugby. And, of course, your son, Mitchell, is a long-serving Crusader and Canterbury player, and also earning himself All Blacks jersey as well. So must be pretty thrilled to follow their journey.
Yeah, to be honest, if you noted the three things I said before, and sort of two of them touch with, obviously family first, but to be following those two around with their sporting abilities over the years, Chris, has been absolute magic. It hasn't finished. I'm still chasing, and I love it. I'd rather do nothing else. I don't sit down and read books and do what normal people do. But I just live the dream of supporting my kids, loving my family, and obviously chasing them. And Nicole played for New Zealand Touch for 10 years. And we went all over the world with that. Like, we were in Malaysia and Hong Kong, and we've been everywhere with World Cups with her. And obviously Mitchell, he's done a few unique things in his rugby career. I mean, both of them played 4 sports a year. So, Mitchell was rugby, touch rugby, basketball and touch. And he played for Nelson in all 4 of those sports. So every year, Nicole was the same. She played 3 sports and was in club as well as represented. So every year we were dropping off, picking up to club, and and it's and I say it proudly, and loved every minute of it. That's the things that we love to do, and it was great that they were hard workers. I mean, Mitchell's not a natural elite sportsman. He just works so hard to be as good as he is. He's one that says, I'll be there early and leave later because I don't want to be the same as someone else. I want to be better, and to be better I need to work harder. And if anyone knows Mitchell's ethics, that's how he does. Nicole is a fitness freak. She does CrossFit. She was in Auckland at the CrossFit Nationals last weekend. and their team out of 35 got 5th. And we're following that with videos. I mean, they're cool things, Chris. And with kids and all of you. I mean, to have that dream to be able to follow, and sure, they've done well at that level, and not everybody has that ability or that opportunity might be, but I just live for it, And Mitchell's played for the All Blacks, a non-cap, so he played for an All Black team. He then played against the All Blacks.
Is that the bar? That was the bar.
Yeah, he's played. Yeah, and then he played for the All Blacks in a cap. So he's played 3 versions of it. He's got some, his first game for the Crusaders, and this is a good trivia question, was he replaced Kieran Reid in Melbourne for the last 5 minutes, never touched the ball, never touched a player, went on to the wing. Naholo went into number 8. That was his first cap. So, it's an interesting scenario.
Yeah.
Never touched the ball, never touched a player. But that was his first cap over for the Crusaders. And he's one of 5 players that have won 7 of the titles. If they win next year, they don't have Sam Whitelock and Richie Mo'unga, who were 2 of them as well. They go. He's had an incredibly good run, and Canterbury have won titles several times with him as well. So, and as I say, Nicole does her thing. She's in the police force, massively disciplined, works hard. Just good and Sarah, don't take away from the mother of 2 great children, and obviously my rock. She's done everything I do, but just doesn't probably get seen and heard for it. Amazing person, continues to be, and putting up with me, can you only imagine, and you take the kids out of it.
She's insane.
And I'm honest about that. Right, I can't keep myself still. So something else. So thank you for touching on the family, Chris, because it's really important to me.
Still selling cars?
Yeah, living the dream. We're just taking on BYD, which has gone.
Well, we're going to ask about the evolution of the car industry, and a chance to plug the company, but also the fact that there's quite a few changes which you've had to come up with. So where is that future going for the car industry?
No denying EV and hybrid. No denying, and there's a lot of manufacturers in the near future will stop making combustion engine cars. So some say 230, some have already stopped. Particular car I drive, in my own car, stopped making that car 12 months ago, full stop, not even making it, it's too high emission. So industries, and we talk about rugby, and we see the Mako set up, or the Tasman set up, and then the survival through financial. The car industry's probably 3 times that, with emissions, with all the sorts of different things that have gone on with the car industry. Like the current one, which is a really interesting one at the moment under the Labor government, which is still in stand, is every time you buy an EV vehicle, which we've got an EV brand going crazy, and I mean crazy. I've sold cars for 40 years. I've never seen it like this, that you get a $7,000 check in the mail from the government less than a week, just put in your bank for buying a car. But you go and buy a diesel ute, you've got to pay $7,000, 6 to 7 grand more. So one outweighs the other. I get that. It's not a fair playing field. I get that as well. But at the moment, of course, end of December, that rebate on the EV finishes. So you can imagine what's happening. Get $7,000 on a plate.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Go and buy one. And because if you're even thinking, just do it. So BYD have come in. They've taken over from Tesla as the world's biggest selling car. Our battery doesn't ignite. It's the only battery in the car. That's right? Important.
Good selling point.
Yes, it is. I've seen some videos recently.
Yeah. Well, you don't see the one of ours which says we don't do it. They only want to talk about the bad things. So even Tesla are using our battery now, as is other brands. So BYD was set up as a battery. So on your phone, computers, they were a battery developer.
So where are they from? Where are they based?
China.
China, right.
There's 40,000 people at the car factory alone. I'll go there next year. But yeah, it's the growing brand like you would not believe. And I thought I was fading away in this area, and trust me, I've got to slow down. Ben Brownie come in as a business partner, and he's the future. But now I've been ignited with this brand, and I'm building a brand new showroom in Rutherford Street to put this in. This is huge, not big, huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not here to have the advert with the brand or my
Happy
company.
to provide you with
No,
the
that's,
advert.
again, not. But you asked about the future.
Yeah.
Futures.
A lot of your mates will be a little bit surprised that you're such a big fan of EV and hybrid.
Well, it's funny. There's about 6 months ago, Drummy, you don't even like EVs. I said, no, I do now. I've been a combustion engine car. There's no denying of that, but it's fading. You go with the times when Jap imports come in years ago, and I was against that because I was selling new cars at Houston's. I didn't want RX-7s and all these imports coming in and whatever they were doing with speedos, and I didn't want to know about any of that. But then, of course, they all changed, and I've changed with it. I'm prepared to change and be wrong if that's what happens. I mean, I didn't want imports. Now I live on them. And of course, EVs, I didn't, wasn't thinking I was going to be the EV guy. Well, we sold more EVs in Nelson last month than any other brand. I wouldn't say put together, but lots. So it's changed. I would never have picked that. That's what it is.
Got to roll with it.
Exactly. Hey, you go with what goes.
Roll with the punches.
Yeah, you guys decide, not me. It's the buyers.
That's right.
Not me.
Yeah.
I've just got to stock them and sell them to you.
Good stuff. Hey, Drummy, it's been fantastic having you in, mate. In actual fact, it's our last show for 2023, so it's the finale. So, so we got the big gun in for the end, and it's been great to have you in here. I know that when we talked about expense, we bumped into and we said, look, we've got to get you on the show because there's a few stories there that we need to. It's been a long history because I remember you back in the 5 day radio 5 days and cost you car. And
you remember those days,
and those kind of things, and you were involved in rugby and sport back then. You've been, a sponsor right from the time that you were with Mitsubishi, then to the car company, and you followed that right through. And you've sponsored local cricket and rugby and other things. Women's Refuge, all sorts of things which you've been involved in right from then. It's been a long association with local community sport, so really appreciate the support you do give the community and that you still put into rugby. And great to hear a few stories and the journey so far. Not ended, still going.
Yeah, no, I've still got a little bit of energy.
Great
to have
you on the show, Drummy.
Yeah, but doing this community thing, what you guys do locally, I mean, as I say, I listened to Max, I thought was outstanding, and some of the other people that you've, your cows and that. It's not always rugby, but it's what they do as people, and what you guys do is it's for the community. And this is cool. And we spoke about doing this a while ago, and I was a little bit skeptical. I don't really like talking about what I've done. It's not my platform, but I suppose at the end of the day, when Liz twisted my arm, and it is a bit of a story. There's some good shit in there. And some people don't get to hear or see what does go on.
Yeah, well, that's right, and I think that's the key is behind everything. It gives us a chance to go behind the scenes, and hear those stories. And I think that's what people get out of this, which is great. Yeah. So fantastic, Drummy. Thanks very much, mate. Thank you, lads.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, mate.
Yeah, that's right. It's not that far away, is it? It's been a big year, Les. You did some stats as he does. 28 podcasts. Well, I think 28 podcasts this year, and we've done over 55 over 2 years. So, man alive, it wasn't that far away. We did our first pilot. I can remember that. So it's great. We're still cracking on, and thanks to Sean for providing us the venue and coming on board.
No worries, mate. It's been a bit of fun.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. And, it's been a journey too, because we've gone right from the very inception of the community game and senior club rugby and the finals to the start of the Mako season, both FPC and MPC, right through to unfortunately not being able to make it into past the quarters, and then obviously a World Cup on top of that as well with the final this weekend. So
plenty of Marcos in it.
Yeah, I know 7 or 8. I remember when we were doing the sports show on another station, we talked about we're announcing the first All Black, and all of a sudden we've got 8. So that's the involvement, isn't it? And that's how fantastic the story has been. And a hard year this year and last year, but I mean, you've got to go through those cycles, and the boys are going to bounce back. So yeah, that's for sure. So thanks very much, gentlemen. Yeah, so what are you going to do with
good question, mate. I'm not entirely not entirely sure yet. We haven't put too much thought past the final this weekend, to be fair.
Yeah, that's right. What about you, Les?
It's the Tasman Sevens this weekend out at Motueka, the All Blacks final on Sunday morning, and then I guess the sound of bat on willow, or willow on ball. The old story. Cricket comes around, follow the Cricket World Cup.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
look after the house,
and then before we know it, we'll be knocking on the door of a new season. So,
correct.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time this season. It's been fantastic, and thank you to our listeners. Really appreciate your support, and we will talk to you again next year. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
The Mako Rugby Roundup. What's on, where and when? It's the Talk of Nelson. Talk Nelson Radio.